Hey, welcome to Lab the Podcast. So good to be back. This is like a new favorite part of the show that we get to quarterly chalk out some time to talk about the Lab Initiative. So we're here with Christina Kruse, our Lab Initiative Director. Christina, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you today?
I am fantastic. The other night it was 90 degrees on the porch, like evening 90. And I said to Cammie, I was like, I love it. It feels so good right now. And she goes, Zach, it's 90 degrees. But it felt finally like warm and I don't know, Florida spring is good. You work outside, like your day job is outside. Do you feel a change
Yes,
like that?
I do. But I am a native Floridian, so I love like 98 degrees and 90% humidity. So I don't know. Maybe I'm part reptile or something, but I love the heat.
Yeah. Your day job literally is outside, like in the wild of Florida.
Yes.
When's the last time you saw an alligator?
Uh, Basically, every time I go to work.
I think that's the wildest thing. Like, it's just Florida amazes me. The other day, there on Instagram, there was a picture of somebody who had a screen door, like a screen door into their house, and the woman came downstairs, and laying in like the hallway was a gigantic alligator that had just made its way through. That's just like normal, and
I don't know if that's normal.
yeah, it's not. There's nothing normal about that, but it's normal for here. But yeah, it's so last time we were together, it was not warm. It was
It
February,
was.
and we had just launched into 2024. We had set some goals, opened up the door to the Lab Initiative, and we didn't yet have a cadence of a Lab Initiative director really taking leadership of this initiative and trying to move us forward. And so I want to give a little bit of a chance for you to catch everybody up. If you're new to Lab the podcast or you haven't caught up on the Lab Initiative, tell us just what it is, what the goal is, and maybe catch us up from February till now. What are some of the highlights with our partner Oak Rock in the work that they're doing?
Sure. So that's a really loaded question. So I'll do my best to remember all those parts. But really, since February, we've been working really hard, a team of us, to get the word out about the Lab Initiative. And what the Lab Initiative is spreading the life and beauty of the gospel. And we do that through the good, the true, and the beautiful. And what we do on this front is really the good. So it's been a really fun project to participate in. And some of the things that we've done over the last handful of months is we've partnered with local organizations such as the Junior League. We've also been able to partner with some local churches that we're really excited to talk about a little bit later in the podcast. And then also partnering with local community organizations that can help us get the word out. So we've really been working hard and very creatively and really feeling where we're led to figure out what is the best way to be able to let people know that we're here and the work that we are all doing.
Yeah. It's so, you did a great job, by the way. That was fantastic. That was very great encapsulation of all those things I peppered you with. But the Lab Initiative aimed at trying to bring the resource, the good, to this fight against human trafficking, care for survivors. We have our partner, Oak Rock. They're in 51 countries around the world doing work. We were able to send our first resource check from the Lab Initiative, and it was $5,000. And when I hear that number, I hear it in this side of my brain. The other side hears a Drake song, like start at the bottom, now we're here. Like it seems so small, but it's a great step. And it's possible because we're working multiple levers. People can donate to the Lab Initiative, but really the heart and soul of what we're trying to do is stand up the coffee project with
Correct.
Buddy Brew. So from February till now, what are some of the steps that have taken place that you've put in place with Buddy Brew? And talk a little bit about how that partnership works.
Sure. So in 2019, before I became the director, you all were able to partner with Buddy Brew, Dave and Susan, and develop this roast, the Freedom Roast. And I think that is genius. And literally all I've been tasked to do is handed the baton to get the word out about it. So we've really been working together as a team to figure out, what are the best avenues. And I think we've done a really great job of figuring out, who is in our network, what organizations do we know. And so we can start to build up that consumer good, buy what you're already buying, but
Yeah.
do it in a way that is good. And to your point about the $5,000, $5,000 might not seem a lot like a lot now, but $5,000 can go a long way in the nonprofit space and really do a lot of good that, we may or may not know about. And hopefully things come together and we're able to talk more about some success stories from Oak Rock. But right now they're super appreciative of the partnership and the support that we can give them at the level that we're currently doing.
Yeah. So that $5,000, like just to give an example, you're in regular communication with Oak Rock. That check goes and there's a feedback loop and they're able to report back like where those dollars went. So we're able to know that the impact is being made, particularly to that first investment. What was the impact on the other side?
Absolutely. So domestically, Oak Rock is really passionate about fighting internet crimes against children. So that is domestically the biggest risk we have for human trafficking in the United States, which I know is kind of mind blowing. And we can get into the weeds about all of that, but essentially, really what they needed cameras so that they could have better evidence. And what they were able to capture was invaluable for what they are currently working on. So that was greatly appreciated. And the $5,000, it's not a one-time thing. Like those cameras can be used over and over and over again. So they were very appreciative of that. And it's just great to know that simply drinking a cup of Buddy Brew Freedom Roast can really help make a dent in these terrible crimes that are being committed, not just domestically, but internationally.
Yeah. And it's that power, like you said, of consumer good and common good. We're buying coffee anyway. Buddy Brew is premium coffee, so it isn't in every grocery store. You can't get it everywhere, but you can get it online. And Dave and Susan have tried to make it really simple and easy to order online. You can find Freedom Roast. If people want to participate, just guide us through that. Like, what's the most effective way if you don't live in Tampa? And then maybe if you do live in Tampa, because I know it's on the shelf in a lot of the stores and it's hard to keep it on the shelf. So everybody who's listening, good job. We've noticed that already, that we put the word out that Buddy Brew is going to carry it, stock it, put it on the shelf. And I know at Beta Bay, it's tough to get it. It'll be on the shelf and off the shelf. So that's awesome. Keep it up. But if you're not in Tampa, how does it work? What's the most effective way for people to find Freedom Roast?
So the easiest way to find it is to go to Buddy Brew's website, Buddy Brew, I think it's .com. And if that's not the right website, you can Google search it and it'll come up. Yeah. And I like to search under the shopping, and then there's a category just for like coffee that gives back, and you can find Freedom Roast there. You can also search for as Freedom Roast, and it's very easy to find. They do it as bags, and then they also have a gift set. So if you have a gift coming up, you can do a package with a mug and the coffee, which I think is a really nice option as well. And then they have different size options. So you can do a 5-pound bag, which is more of a bulk order. Or for you, coffee drinkers that drink it all day, every day, that might be a great option for you. And then they have the regular, like coffee size, like 1 pound, kind of, maybe it's 16 ounces. Well, I guess 16 ounces is a pound, but
you knew that. I didn't.
The smaller version of a bag of coffee. And what I personally like to do is have the subscription because it makes it super easy. I don't even have to think about it. It's in my monthly budget as like a line item that every month it's going to show up. It ships super fast and I know it's coming. And I always order a few more bags than I know I will consume because it's a great gift for someone, or a housewarming, or if you're invited to an event, it's great just to bring something with you. Maybe that's the way I was raised. You just don't show up empty-handed. So coffee is a great gift to bring. And the subscription is very easy. I think if you spend $59 on your order, you get free shipping. So that's another nice option as well, because then you're not taking more money out of the profits of the Freedom Roast. So online is very easy. If you have any issues ordering, feel free to reach out to Buddy Brew, or you can reach out to me at Christina at vuvivo.com, and we're happy to make help you in any way we can.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, just the power of that. I love what's being developed. So we're so appreciative of your work because it's really cool. You can have an idea all day long. I've got a great friend who says you need talent, idea, capital, all three of those to make something work. And we have a good idea about the lab initiative that there's an area for the good of the gospel to impact freedom for captives, healing, restoration, reconciliation, all those things. That's great at an idea level, but it stays in abstraction until people embody their faith and think outside of the box. And that takes two to tango. Dave and Susan had to be willing to give up profit and say, we will set aside a portion of our sales, $3 from every single bag. So think about the power of that. That's what I love, is that if you thought about, hey, if I ask everybody right now, that thousands of people who will hear this conversation, if I ask you, go donate $3, it's like, we might get that, we might do that, but it's a small donation. But if we're already buying coffee, you just make that switch to Freedom Roast and work with Buddy Brew, you get premium coffee, and Dave and Susan have made it easy for people to do that. But it's also organizations. And that's where I really want to celebrate this, because you, and in partnership with Riley, our producer, so go Riley, he's over there. Riley, good job. This is the power, right, of us together, this idea that let's think creatively, let's think outside of the box. And this really happened on your watch. So talk a little bit about our first big win for getting an organization to really embrace this idea.
Yes. So a huge shout out to Riley. I really appreciate his connection here. But we are now working with First Presbyterian here in Tampa. And this came around really organically. Riley knew that they were already serving Buddy Brew coffee. So right off the bat, it's like, okay, you're serving Buddy Brew. You already know the quality. You already know it's a local brand that you want to support. And Riley was just like, well, we have this Freedom Roast. Can I help put you in contact with someone to have that conversation? And we just had the conversation. And we were able to help them transition what they were already doing with Buddy Brew just specifically to the Freedom Roast so that they could give back to the good causes. And I think that's really what it is. It's great to give a donation, but if you're already buying something, like I was at the store the other day and they had, premium coffee on sale at the store, and it was actually, the sale price was more expensive than the Buddy Brew Freedom Roast. And I was like, so the price point for this coffee is really, really good. We do have the bulk option of the 5-pound bag that I think you get a 25% savings. And then if you're on the subscription, you get a 10% savings. So it's not like we're inflating the price to get the $3 back. Like, this is really well priced for the quality that you get. And after talking to Susan a couple weeks ago, she's like, we go above and beyond fair trade. Like, we want to make sure that the farmers can live a prosperous lifestyle. We're not trying to undercut the farmer. We really want to make sure that we brew good, do good all the way around. And it's not just on one side of our business. So you really are supporting a class act. You're supporting a Christian organization. You're supporting coffee that does good.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? I remember talking to Dave just about their approach to finding farmers, working with farmers, and Dave and Susan's whole lens is through the gospel. It is the life and beauty of the gospel, people whose lives have been transformed, and they recognize that they are stewards with the resource that God's given them, and that includes their business. And so their business practices are literally aligned with the kingdom of God and saying, we're going to do business differently. We could do it cheaper. We could do it more efficiently maybe, but we're going to find farmers and we're going to invest in farms and we're going to build relationships with people. And from the places that we're sourcing all the way to the distribution, to the giving back, to the brewing good, doing good philosophy that's woven into people, that's what it looks like. And what's so cool is anybody can do this, right? It just takes that thoughtful approach to our business and to a different way of imagining an embodied faith rather than just an abstracted set of principles that we're like, yeah, well, I believe these things and then I have to get back to real life. It's like, no, this is real life. This is on earth as it is in heaven. This is participation, and it's really, really cool to see. So huge celebration to First Pres. Thank you, First Pres, and just Kathy and Fitz Connor, the pastors there, for their work to, again, see this and go, well, this is an easy yes, right? We're going to bring hospitality and warmth into our church. We're going to partner with somebody who's doing this in a way that every time we serve that coffee, we're participating literally in setting captives free, healing people, restoration. That's the way it's supposed to work. So
yeah. And one other thing I love about Buddy Brew, and it's interesting because in the United States, we don't grow coffee.
Yeah.
So it's also the farmers that they work with are hearing about the work that Buddy Brew does and Dave and Susan does really all over the world because they have farmers on multiple continents. So it's not only, because we don't make this raw material in the United States, they're working with farmers in Africa, they're working with farmers in South America, so I think that is a really beautiful part of the story too, is we're drinking it here domestically, but the story is deeper than that because these farmers are not even on this continent.
Yeah. I think back to this boys' home that Cammie and I toured, and we were able to go look at this undisclosed location where this organization was hosting or they stood up a home for boys that had been trafficked, and heartbreaking to be there, but inspiring to see the staff. And this is what the dream is for you. I can't wait for Christina to go visit a facility like that and take a $100,000 check or a $200,000 check. And when you're working in the trenches and doing that kind of work day in and day out, and all of you who do this work, we have such high admiration for you, because a lot of times nobody knows, nobody sees what you're doing. Nobody sees these investigators who are watching cameras and looking at things and having to process through evidence. That so much of that is unseen. And yet we know it's going on. And I just love the idea that by doing something as simple as this, maybe in 2 years, Christina is going to visit a facility and giving $200,000, and people are going, man, people all over the world are literally participating to make it possible for us to do our work. And again, you go, well, does that matter? And yeah, don't despise the day of humble beginnings, this little step. And light goes into the darkness and transforms something. And that just continues to spread. So
it definitely comes full circle. I know we've talked a lot about the tapestry, but it really does, because Oak Rock, is a U.S. born, I guess, nonprofit, but essentially they've been called to do work all over the world. You mentioned earlier they're in 51 countries. So, who knows, but where the farmers are, we could be doing work in that country. So it really can come full circle. And it just came from doing our small part of drinking a delicious cup of coffee.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I hope it inspires people too, just like your story, because, somebody's listening to this and they're not necessarily directly involved in the lab initiative. They buy the coffee, but they have a gift or a talent that probably they're one click away from being the answer to prayer that you were to us and to the lab initiative. And we just did a podcast with Jeff Harmon, who runs Angel Studios, and they had launched Cabrini, the film. And I was so inspired by Cabrini's story and just the reality that this one person had this fight in her to say something. I've been called to address a particular issue, and I'm going to be restless and ferocious about it. And she just brought this energy and would not take no for an answer. And there was a part in the movie where they said that people, like the wealthy people in the area she was at, they were afraid to ever knock on her door because they were afraid she was going to ask them for their house, because she had no fear. She was just like, hey, there's a huge need, there's an opportunity, and I'm here to bridge that gap. And I see a lot of her spirit in you, like that same, I see something and go, that's not right. That's not the way it should be. And I always say, light says to the darkness, we beg to differ. And you have that fire in you. Go back, like as in your story, what are the things and maybe who are the people and places, the events that you look back on and you go, that actually is now, one of them is hosting your high school radio show, and now you're on the podcast talking about these things. But what are some of those things that you can look back and go, you know what? I never would have predicted, but it says he prepares us in advance for the things that are happening now. Where do you see evidence of that in your story?
So I think my parents definitely raised my brother and I to be very strong and always do what was right, even if it wasn't popular. So from a young age, sorry for all of you who have FOMO, but that's not really a thing for me. If I've always kind of had my own drum and been okay with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to, be a joiner and not feel like you're missing out, but that was just not something that I have like a heartbeat for. And I think my parents were big inspirations in that. And then I also think serving in the church from a young age, we always did the 8:00 service. And I think being an altar server, you learn the purpose and kind of the beauty of those rituals. And we had a really great father that we were like understudies to. And I think we got a really good fundamentals on our faith. And then I think being able to participate in a lot of nonprofits in school. I grew up in a really small community, but a very tight-knit community and a very like hardworking, mostly agricultural community. So I think being able to do things like Relay for Life and things at a young age, and I was actually on the steering committee for that in high school, and that's part of a fundraiser. And some kids just didn't want to ask for money, and I just didn't have any fear, so I would just take a milk jug and walk around the neighborhood and just ask my
Let's go.
neighbors for change. And like we ended up, I think, winning an award one year for like one of the top fundraisers because we just were like, we're just going to figure it out. And at the end of the day, the worst someone's going to say to you is no, but you never know where those experiences are going to come. So I don't really have a big fear of the word no anymore because I think those experiences as a kid, because if like we'll mention some of our community partners, but I've had gone in, given a cup of coffee, talked about our product, and they're like, yeah, we love to support like ministries like that. We love anything that's, Jesus. And it's like, oh, okay, that really wasn't that difficult. And I think if I would have been raised with like that fear that, people don't want to help you or people are kind of negative, I don't think I would have had the confidence just to be like, well, let me just ask, because at the end of the day, it is. And like you mentioned during the morning show, I mean, I think if you're, how old would I have been? 17 years old, and you're doing the morning show every morning in your high school, and you have good days and you have bad days, just like everybody. And it's all out there for the whole school to see every morning. So that was pretty vulnerable. But it's been fun. It's been fun to look back and be like, I really was prepared for things that at the time, I just thought they were fun, or I just thought they'd look really great on a college resume, but actually they have been like instrumental in the things I have done as an adult.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, we talk a lot about providence and like it's not chance, there's no coincidences. This idea that God is ahead of us and he literally did make us for a purpose. That's kind of the definition classically of the good or good, right? Beauty, goodness, truth. And beauty is that which draws, it's the lovely, it's that thing that delights. And it draws you in, but it draws you into something that is purposeful. It's designed. It has an aim. And the whole idea of good is something rightly aimed. If so, it's good, right? Like what God made is good, but it can be not rightly aimed, or it can be disordered. And then it's not participating in good. But beauty and goodness that's true. That's what is true. And so God is at work providentially leading us and guiding us towards that end. And I think it's so cool just listening to your story and thinking about everybody listening to this. And I just have symphony on the mind lately, but there's so many different ways that people can just even now go back and look at your story and go, okay, what has God given me that there's an opportunity probably right in front of me that I can lean into and just ask, like, how can I help? And that's literally what you did. You were just like, hey, I want to help, and how can I help? And then we made you the director. So
be careful what you ask for,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Raise a hand. And you have help, right? Like now you've inspired other people to help. So you have your first intern. Talk about that. It's happening. I'm pretty proud of this one.
Yes. So our first intern with the lab initiative is your eldest, Bella. And she really has been hitting the ground running with this, with everything she has on her plate as a high school student. So I remember those days, but she has a big goal to have 10 contributing ongoing like partners for the lab initiative and Buddy Brew. So I think that's fantastic. I think she's going to learn so much in this, regardless of how many she has to go through to get 10.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that is a huge learning experience. And I think that the more comfortable she is with public speaking and asking for money and asking for donations and having her like elevator pitch, the better. It's a real like tangible skill she can transfer on. So if you all don't hear from me, but you hear from Bella, that's who is going to be helping us. And her email is basically the same. It's bella@vuvivo.com. So if you all aren't getting information from me, you might be getting it from Bella. So yeah, really happy to have her on board.
It's so cool. Like, thank you again for just your example, like who you are as a person and your leadership. And again, just the example of when somebody raises their hand and says, yes, for a dad, now my daughter is being mentored and is looking up to and is working alongside you on this project that has impact and is helping other people. And It's cool. And it just takes our yes to do that. It's so cool.
I think that's how it should be. And maybe I learned this at a young age too. Like when you're in an organization in high school or college, like you have to mentor the next group because you're only there for 4 years. So I remember being in student government in high school and in college. And in college, I got the opportunity to like mentor our freshman committee. And they were like, well, why do you do this? I was like, well, because I'm a junior. I only have 2 more years. So I need to make sure that when I leave, like things we have done live on in perpetuity and there's a legacy there. So I think sometimes we get the misconception of success, and not to say that I'm like the most successful person on this podcast. You've interviewed amazing people, but success really comes from helping. And if you're not willing to help, I really don't think you're going to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a redefinition of what success is, what winning looks like. And I love that. Along the way, I picked up the practice of really believing that you got to have somebody within 10 years older than you and 10 years younger than you in your life. So you're learning from somebody upstream and you're impacting somebody downstream. And to be pretty intentional about that, we've tried to do that because you learn from both sides of that, right? You hanging out with Bella, you're going to learn all sorts of things.
Oh, yes, I'm sure.
Right? And she's going to benefit so much. And you're a character in that story that someday she'll be sitting down saying, hey, I learned this from Christina. She was a mentor to me. And so don't forget the power of that. I mean, that's the life and beauty of the gospel all the time. That's the heart of this show, is just participating in a way that expands and widens out that love of God that just continues to go and go. But it takes a yes. Do you ever get, you're not afraid to hear no's, but what are the things that you do wrestle through? Insecurities or struggles that, because I look at your story and all the different things that you're accomplishing, and you're so talented. But I know that there's probably areas where you're going, yep, I still have that little voice that says, you don't have what it takes, or whatever it is. What are the things that you battle through that maybe don't even mean the Lab Initiative, but just in general?
I think just like everyone, we battle with our faith and our trust. Story for another day. But my husband and I have been on a pretty interesting journey for the last few years. And that will definitely like break you down. And you really have to have faith. And I think just learning, I'm very much a type A person naturally. I like order, I like control. And for being in the US and being in corporate America, those are all really great characters. But for the spiritual life, those are all really bad characteristics because at the end of the day, we don't have control. So I definitely think over the last few years, I've grown a lot, and I've been able to just be like, it's okay, and I think if you would have asked me a few years ago, I probably would have had a different answer for you. But I think I'm at peace with a lot of things because I know that I just don't have control. And looking back at my story and where we are today, I'm like, no, God's really got me, because there's so many little things that I thought were so insignificant at the time that when I look back now, I'm like, no, like that led to this, which led to this, which led to this, which led to where I am now. And where I am is pretty amazing. It's not where we necessarily want to be. But I definitely think like wrestling with that, like why me, like so-and-so is, doing this and doing that. And they seem to have it so much easier than I have it, but it's not really the truth at the end of the day. And you really don't want anybody else's story. You want your own. So, but I would say that definitely the faith walk and just knowing that at the end of the day, like it's God's plan and it's not mine to control has probably been like my biggest hurdle to overcome.
Yeah, no, that's good. We're working with so many different cool people in the music world, and I've talked to several people in the classical music world, and classical music, just in the way that it's written, it has the tensions, and it doesn't always have all the up and resolved melodies, but it does resolve at the end. There's a resolve and not that you put a bow on everything, but those atonal, those twists and turns and pain points are there, but there is a sense that it lifts and it orients towards hope. And I can't remember if it was Gregorios or one of the folks in the music world said it orients toward hope. And it just, if nothing else, peels the curtain back and says, nope, that's where it's aiming. And I think that's, faith is being sure of what you hope for and certain of what you don't see. And I think it takes that to keep going. and to believe that it matters, right? And not get discouraged. And I hope that that's what's coming through, not just in the lab initiative, but for people, as you listen to this story of just what's possible, that we can't give up on trying and participating and saying, you know what, I'm going to go for it. So I hope that this inspires you locally too, for whatever God's calling you to participate in good, right? There's beauty and goodness and truth, and there's something good there that brew good, do good. Dave and Susan said, we're going to take that to our business, and maybe it's to your school district, maybe it's to your house, maybe it's to your neighborhood. But if this just kicks something off, email us that too. I would love to hear what you're involved in that we can celebrate. So super cool. Before we run out of time, I want to bring it back to the lab initiative. And the next time we're going to do this is summer. So we did it in the winter, got a spring update. We'll come back in the summer. And I know you're hopeful that we'll be able to share some numbers. What kind of things are you hoping to point toward in the summer?
Absolutely. So I think the first one is just getting an increase to traffic to the Buddy Brew website. And then also we have our own V3 apps in V3 website. So if you're not a coffee drinker, but you feel led to donate, we will also accept donations. And I think just seeing those numbers increase with money going directly to the lab initiative. I don't necessarily have like a number in mind, but I just think seeing that steady increase, because that steady increase is going to just lead to an exponential increase, and we'll hit the tipping point where we just can't control it anymore, which I think is the goal. And then from there, I think having some more community partners come on, regardless if it's a church or maybe a nonprofit entity that is serving coffee or would like to serve coffee in their office or during their hospitality hour at their church. And then I think even working with local ways to get the word out. So we did an interview with My Spirit FM, the Catholic radio station here in Tampa. So that's going to air in May. Probably by the time this is available, that would have aired. So that's great to be able to have that partnership. So anything like that, local newspapers, I think if we could get something on one of the local news stations in the morning would be amazing. And then we've also worked with some local print that they actually donated space for us to have a quarter of a page that was a Focus magazine in Plant City. So super appreciative to them wanting to support this ministry and this cause. And they have been amazing to work with. So, and they're willing just to run the ad for us. So we'll see what kind of, what that sparks being in a smaller community outside of Tampa as well. And I think just hitting all the areas of Hillsborough County and then maybe even spreading into some of the surrounding counties as well would be great. And then for those of you who are listening to this that are not in the Tampa Bay area or even in Florida, we'd love to hear from you. We would love to be able to, you order coffee and we could I think we talked about getting a map up.
Yeah, come on.
So we know where the coffee is being shipped, anything we can do to help that impact, because yes, we want to help human trafficking, but human trafficking isn't just here. A case may start in Tampa and it could take you all over the world and back. So this isn't just a Tampa problem. This isn't just a Florida problem. And unfortunately, this is not just a U.S. problem. And I think the more of us who get involved, just the better.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, I think the coffee sale, that's the easy first step, right? To that one little consumer choice to shift. So if you're listening, buddybrew.com, you can go to our website and find the links, but you can just go straight to buddybrew.com and the Coffee for Good. Go find it and make that a part. The subscription is awesome. It makes it easy. But second to that is your organization, your church. First Pres, thank you. I think Redeemer City Church is coming on. Think about it. If we got 50 churches, even just in the Tampa Bay area, that's a massive shift. So that's what we're cheering for and praying for. So pray for that. And then also, if you're a part of an organization, whether it's a business or church, just go be a champion and an advocate and say, hey, this is a no-brainer. We're already buying coffee. Let's buy this coffee. I think those two things are huge. And thanks for mentioning just V3 in general, right? Like there's people, all of us listening, we're making choices of organizations that we support. And obviously we feel called to this work and strategic evangelism, just evangelism where we think about it differently for a different context. It's not Christendom anymore. It's not what it was in the West, which is actually really exciting because we have a fresh opportunity to engage the West Western culture with the life and beauty of the gospel. We do it through beauty, through all of our art initiatives. We do it through good, through things like this. We do it through truth with the conversations that we're curating and the content that we're sharing. So if you have a donor advised fund, if you are participating at a level, V3 we would love to partner with you, and I'd love to talk to you about that. And if particularly in your giving portfolio, you want to make sure a portion of what you're doing and what you're giving goes to fight human trafficking and care for survivors, I hope these kind of conversations help, because you have a face now in Christina knowing that she's going to be guiding and stewarding that work in those resources. And 100% of the lab initiative donations go directly to fight human trafficking. That's a pass-through. So thank you for everybody who supports V3. You make it possible for us to do this work so that the lab initiative funds, there's no administrative fees, there's none of that. It just goes straight through.
And the same thing with Oak Rock. Like, everything goes to fight human trafficking. They're not using it for an advertisement or anything. It goes directly to the cause. So your money is 100% being supporting what we are trying to fight.
Yeah, that's super cool. Christina, thank you for your work. I'm excited for summer because I think we've got momentum. We're seeing really cool doors open. So I can't wait to get back with you and talk about all the impact. What's the thing when you pray? Because you had put that on the list of people can pray. And so just when you pray for the lab initiative, what's the thing right now that you are praying for and asking for the lab initiative?
So I started the year with a fast, and I was fasting for 3 things. And one of the 3 was a supernatural growth for for V3 and Oak Rock and what we are trying to fight. So I know it's out of my hands, so that's why I turned it over to God, and it's really up to Him to see that supernatural growth go. And that's kind of why I'm hesitant to put numbers on things, because I don't want to limit and I don't want to cap. But my prayer is just supernatural growth for the ministry partners that we have in V3 and Oak Rock, and just see the doors open that we know could have never been opened without Him.
Yeah, super cool. Well, I'm going to join you in that, and I would just invite everybody to join in that prayer. And I love what you're saying, to not put a limit on it. I don't think we should. I think that we should, our job is to be faithful. Mother Teresa, that's how we started the year, that you're not called to be successful, called to be faithful and just bring what we have. So Christina, thanks for doing that. Thank you all for helping and partnering. Thanks to First Pres for all of your work, and obviously Buddy Brew for making this possible. And so here's to what we can't yet see. We'll be back in the summer with another update.
Thank you so much.